The dust had barely settled on her father's grave when Dahlia Langston realized the O'Malley brothers were coming for everything she had left. She stood in the mercantile her father had built with his own hands, 23 years of memories pressed between these wooden walls, and listened to the approaching hoofbeats that meant her time had run out. Her father had owed money, borrowed against the business during the hard winter of 1881, when half the town had bought on credit and paid in promises. Now it was spring of 1882, the Kansas prairie was blooming with wildflowers, and Thomas Langston was 6 feet under with nothing but debts to his name. Dahlia moved quickly through the store, her skirts swishing against flour barrels and tin goods. She pulled down the leather satchel from behind the counter, the one that held her mother's silver locket, the deed to the small plot of land north of Linden where her parents had dreamed of building a house, her father's watch, and the $300 she had saved from her own careful management of the store. The O'Malleys did not know about this money. They could not know. The hoofbeats grew louder. Through the window she saw them, 4 men on horseback, Garrett O'Malley in front with his cruel smile and calculating eyes. They would tear this place apart looking for anything of value. Her father's debts were legal, signed and witnessed, but the O'Malleys were the kind of men who would take more than they were owed just because they could. Dahlia grabbed the small wooden box that held her mother's wedding ring and the few photographs she owned. She stuffed everything into a flour sack, her hands shaking but her mind clear. There was only one choice. She slipped out the back door into the alley, the morning sun harsh against her eyes. The prairie stretched behind the main street of Linden, endless grass rolling toward a horizon that promised nothing but more grass. But Dahlia knew this land. She had walked it with her father when she was a girl, learned the landmarks, the strange rock formations, the lonely trees that stood like sentinels. She ran now, her boots kicking up dust, the flour sack clutched against her chest. A quarter-mile out, she found the spot she had chosen in her mind during the sleepless night after her father's burial. An old cottonwood tree, split by lightning years ago, stood beside a cluster of limestone rocks. She could remember this. She would have to remember this. She had no shovel, only her hands and a flat rock she found nearby. The earth was soft from recent rain, and she dug with desperate energy, her nails breaking, her palms blistering. She dug until the hole was deep enough, then wrapped the flour sack in her shawl and placed it carefully in the ground. She covered it over, packed the earth down, and scattered dried grass and small stones to hide the disturbed soil. When she walked back to town, her hands were filthy and her dress was ruined, but her most precious belongings were safe. The O'Malleys could have the mercantile, could have the inventory and the building itself, but they would not have her future. Garrett O'Malley was waiting on the front steps when she returned. He was a thick man in his 40s, with a beard that did not quite hide the smallpox scars on his cheeks. "Miss Langston," he said, his voice oily with false courtesy. "We have business to discuss." "I know why you are here," Dahlia said, lifting her chin. "Take what you are owed." They went through the store like locusts, listing inventory, appraising value, marking everything down in a leather ledger. Dahlia stood and watched, her heart breaking with every item they claimed. Her father's dream reduced to numbers in a book. "Where is the cash box?" Garrett asked, his eyes narrow. "There is no cash. My father spent everything trying to keep this place running." "I do not believe you." "Believe what you want. I cannot give you money that does not exist." They searched anyway, tearing through the back room, appending crates, rifling through her father's modest living quarters above the store. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. When they finally left, Garrett stood close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath. You have 2 days to clear out, he said. After that, this building belongs to us, and anything inside it belongs to us too. Dahlia spent those 2 days in a blur of grief and practicality. She sold what few personal items the O'Malleys had not claimed: pieces of furniture, her father's clothes, kitchen goods. She packed one small trunk with essentials and paid Mrs. Henderson at the boarding house for a week's room. On the 3rd day, she stood on the street and watched the O'Malleys nail their sign over her father's. The Linden Mercantile became O'Malley & Sons General Store. Something inside her hardened like clay in a kiln. She found work at the hotel, cleaning rooms and changing linens. The pay was poor and the work was exhausting, but she needed to survive until she could figure out her next move. Every evening, she walked to the edge of town and looked out at the prairie, at that distant cottonwood tree, and promised herself she would reclaim what was hers. 3 weeks passed. Dahlia learned the rhythms of the hotel, the traveling salesmen who came through on the railroad, the ranchers who stayed overnight when business brought them to town. She kept her head down and her thoughts to herself. Then one afternoon in late April, a stranger rode into Linden. He was tall in the saddle, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that needed cutting and several days of stubble on his jaw. He wore a dusty brown duster over worn denim and a hat that had seen better days. His horse was a handsome paint, well cared for despite the long miles evident in both rider and mount. He dismounted in front of the hotel with the easy grace of a man who had spent most of his life on horseback. Dahlia was sweeping the porch and paused to watch him tie his horse to the rail. When he stepped onto the porch, their eyes met and she felt a strange jolt like touching metal in winter. "Afternoon," he said, his voice low and rough-edged. "Looking for a room?" "We have vacancies," Dahlia said, steadying her voice. "I will get Mrs. Patterson. Obliged." She hurried inside, aware of his presence behind her like heat from a stove. Mrs. Patterson, the hotel owner, bustled out to the front desk and took his information. His name was Marcus Zimmerman. He paid for 3 nights in advance with silver dollars, and he was polite but not talkative. Over the next day, Dahlia learned more about him through observation. He was not a rancher or a salesman. He spent time at the livery, checking on his horse, and he walked the town with the awareness of a man used to trouble. He carried a gun but wore it like a tool, not a trophy. On the 2nd day of his stay, Dahlia was carrying linens upstairs when she encountered him in the hallway. The space was narrow and they both stopped, too close in the dim light. "Pardon me," Marcus said, stepping aside to let her pass. "Thank you." She moved past him, then something made her turn back. "Are you looking for work, Mr. Zimmerman?" He studied her with eyes that were a surprising shade of gray-green. "Depends on the work. There are ranches hiring if you are a cattleman. The railroad is always looking for men, too." "I appreciate the information." He hesitated, then added, "You are not from the hotel originally. I heard you lost your father's store." Dahlia stiffened. "You heard correctly. I am sorry for your loss." There was something in his tone, genuine sympathy without pity, that made her throat tighten. She nodded and hurried away before the tears could come. That evening, as she was finishing her work, Marcus found her in the hotel kitchen. "Miss Langston, could I speak with you?" She set down the dish she was washing. "What about?" "I've been asking around town, trying to get a sense of the place. Your name came up more than once. People say you got a raw deal from the O'Malleys. People talk too much. Maybe, but I have dealt with men like the O'Malleys before. They tend to take more than they are owed. They took what the law allowed them to take. Law and justice are not always the same thing." He leaned against the doorframe, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. "I heard you had some land, a plot north of town. Still yours, apparently, since it was not part of the store's debt." Dahlia's heart beat faster. What business is that of yours? None, I suppose. Except I am looking for a place to stay longer than a hotel room, and I am good with my hands. If you needed help building something on that land, working it, I would be interested in discussing terms. She stared at him, trying to read his intentions. Why would you want to help me? I need work and a place to settle for a while. You need help. Seems like a fair exchange. He pushed off from the door frame. Think about it. Let me know if you are interested. He left her standing in the kitchen, her mind racing. She did not trust easily, not anymore, but there was something about Marcus Zimmerman that felt solid, trustworthy. Or maybe she was just desperate enough to take a chance. That night, she lay awake in her small room at the boarding house and stared at the ceiling. The land her father had bought was real, but there was nothing on it. No house, no well, no barn. To make it livable would take money and labor, and she had very little of the first and none of the second. But there was the money buried under the cottonwood tree. $300 was enough to start something if she had help. The next morning, she found Marcus having breakfast in the hotel dining room. She sat down across from him, ignoring the curious looks from other diners. I want to discuss your offer, she said quietly, but we need to talk privately. They walked to the edge of town, where the main street gave way to prairie grass and open sky. Dahlia chose her words carefully. I do have land. 20 acres with a good water source according to the survey my father had done, but I have no money to build on it. The O'Malleys took everything. Not everything, I suspect, Marcus said, watching her face. She flushed. What makes you say that? Because you are too smart to have let them take everything. I am guessing you hid whatever you could before they came calling. Dahlia took a breath. This was the gamble. I did. But I cannot access it alone. Why not? Because I buried it and I need help digging it up. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Show me. They walked out across the prairie, the morning sun warming the land, the grass whispering around their legs. Dahlia led him to the cottonwood tree, her heart pounding. This man was a stranger. She was trusting him with everything she had left in the world. There, she said, pointing to the base of the tree. I buried a sack with money and valuables, everything I could save. Marcus studied the ground, then looked at her. You buried your entire future here, I did, and now you are trusting me to help you dig it up and not just take it and ride away. Yes. Why? Because I do not have a choice, and because I think you are an honest man. She met his eyes. Am I wrong? Something shifted in his expression, a softening around the edges. No, you are not wrong. Let us get your belongings back. They returned to town and borrowed a shovel from the livery. The stable hand gave them a curious look but said nothing. Back at the cottonwood tree, Marcus began to dig while Dahlia watched, her hands clasped together. The earth was packed now, harder than when she had dug the hole, but Marcus was strong and methodical. He worked steadily, the shovel biting into the ground, his breath even despite the effort. Sweat darkened his shirt between his shoulder blades. There, Dahlia said when the blade struck something soft. Be careful. Marcus set the shovel aside and knelt, using his hands to clear away the last of the dirt. He pulled out the wrapped bundle and handed it to Dahlia without looking inside. Yours, he said simply. She unwrapped the shawl with shaking hands. Everything was there, the leather satchel, the wooden box, all of it intact. She opened the satchel and saw the money, still neatly bundled, and felt tears sting her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Marcus stood, brushing dirt from his hands. What now? She looked up at him, this stranger who had just proven himself trustworthy in the most fundamental way possible. Now we discuss terms. I want to hire you to help me build a house on my land. I will pay you fair wages and provide meals. When the house is done, if you want to stay on and help me start a farm or a business, we can discuss a partnership. A partnership. I cannot run a place alone and you need work. We could help each other. Marcus considered this, his gray-green eyes thoughtful. I will agree to those terms with one addition. If we are partners, we split everything equally. I will not take wages from you like a hired hand if we are building something together. That is too generous. That is fair. You have the land and the capital. I have the labor and the skills. Equal partnership, Miss Langston. She wanted to argue, but the determination in his face stopped her. Instead, she held out her hand. Equal partners, then, and you can call me Dahlia. He shook her hand, his grip firm and warm. Marcus. They stood there in the prairie sun, hands clasped, and Dahlia felt something shift in her chest, a loosening of the tight knot of fear and grief she had carried since her father's death. This was a beginning. Over the next weeks, Dahlia and Marcus transformed themselves into builders. They bought lumber from the mill, nails and tools from the hardware store, and hired a wagon to haul everything to the land. Marcus proved to be as skilled as he had claimed, laying out the foundation with precision, cutting and fitting boards with practiced ease. Dahlia worked beside him, learning as she went. She had never built anything before, but she was strong and determined, and Marcus was a patient teacher. They worked from dawn to dusk, breaking only for meals that Dahlia prepared over a campfire. As they worked, they talked. Dahlia learned that Marcus was 28, originally from Missouri, and had been working as a ranch hand and occasional scout for the past 10 years. He had saved money with the intention of buying his own place someday, but had not found the right opportunity until now. Why Linden? Dahlia asked one afternoon as they framed the walls of what would be the main room. There are bigger towns with more opportunities. I wanted somewhere quiet, Marcus said, hammering a nail with steady strikes. Somewhere I could put down roots. I spent too many years drifting. And you do not mind partnering with a woman. Most men would consider that beneath them. He looked at her, his expression serious. Most men are fools. You are one of the smartest, most capable people I have met, man or woman. I consider myself lucky to be working with you. Dahlia felt heat rise in her cheeks and turned away, focusing on her own section of wall. But his words warmed something inside her, a place that had been cold for a long time. As the house took shape, so did their partnership. They fell into an easy rhythm, anticipating each other's needs, communicating with few words. Marcus would reach for a tool and Dahlia would hand it to him before he asked. She would struggle with a heavy beam and he would be there to help lift it. They also began to learn each other's stories. Dahlia told him about her mother, who had died when she was 12, and her father's struggle to raise her alone while running the mercantile. She spoke of the dreams her parents had shared, the house they had planned to build on this very land. They never got the chance, she said one evening as they sat by the fire, exhausted from the day's work. My father kept saying, next year, next year. Then the hard winter came and he had to choose between the store and the land. He kept the store because it was our livelihood, but he never gave up the deed to this property. He held on to it right until the end. So we are building their dream, Marcus said quietly. Yes, I suppose we are. Marcus told her about his own family, a father who drank too much and a mother who had died young. He had left home at 16 and never looked back. I have been on my own ever since, he said. Learned to rely on myself, not to trust too easily. Then why trust me? Dahlia asked. You could have taken the money and left. Because you trusted me first, and because I am tired of being alone. Their eyes met across the fire, and Dahlia felt her heart stutter. There was something happening between them, something more than partnership. She saw it in the way he looked at her, in the gentle way he touched her hand when he helped her over rough ground, in the sound of his laugh when she said something that amused him. She was falling in love with Marcus Zimmerman, and the realization terrified her. By mid-June, the house was nearly complete. It was a simple structure, 4 rooms and a porch, but it was solid and well built. They had installed windows that let in the prairie light, and Marcus had built a stone fireplace that would keep them warm through the winter. Us. Dahlia had said when he mentioned it. "Will you be staying through the winter?" Marcus had been on the roof, nailing down shingles. He paused and looked down at her. "If you want me to, I do. Then I will be here." They celebrated the completion of the house with a meal in town, a rare extravagance at the hotel restaurant. Dahlia wore her best dress, a dark blue cotton she had salvaged from the mercantile before the O'Malleys took over. Marcus had cleaned up, shaved, and wore a white shirt that made his tanned skin look even darker. "To new beginnings," Marcus said, raising his glass of cider. "To partnership," Dahlia added, clinking her glass against his. They ate steak and potatoes and fresh bread, and for the first time in months, Dahlia felt genuinely happy. The grief over her father was still there, a constant ache beneath her ribs, but it was softened now by hope. As they walked back to the boarding house where Dahlia still kept her room, Marcus said, "I have been thinking about what comes next." "What do you mean? We have a house now. We need to decide what we are building beyond that. A farm, a ranch, something else." Dahlia had been thinking about this too. "I know the mercantile business. What if we opened a trading post? We are far enough from town that ranchers and travelers heading west might appreciate a place to stop for supplies." Marcus nodded slowly. "That could work. We are on a good route and there is nothing else out this way. We would need inventory, but with your experience you would know what to stock. It would not be as large as my father's store, not at first, but we could start small and grow. I like it. A trading post it is." They stood outside the boarding house, the summer night warm around them. Fireflies blinked in the darkness and somewhere a dog barked. Dahlia did not want the evening to end. "Marcus, I want to thank you for everything. You gave me my future back." "We gave each other a future," he said softly. He reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Dahlia, I need to tell you something," her breath caught. "What?" "I did not come to Linden by accident. I was looking for a place to belong, a reason to stop drifting. I found it, but not in the way I expected." He took her hand. "I found it in you, Marcus." His name was barely a whisper. "I am not good with words, but I need you to know. Working with you these past weeks, building something together, it has meant more to me than anything else in my life. And somewhere along the way I fell in love with you." Tears pricked Dahlia's eyes. "I fell in love with you too. I tried not to because it felt too soon, too complicated, but I could not help it." He pulled her close, and she went willingly, wrapping her arms around him. He was solid and warm, and she felt safe in a way she had not felt since her father died. "We should probably court properly," Marcus said against her hair. "Do things the right way." "I think we have been courting all along," Dahlia said with a shaky laugh. "We just called it partnership." He pulled back enough to look at her, his eyes searching. "Does that mean you would consider marrying me? I know it is fast, but I am certain about this. I am certain about you." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, I will marry you." He kissed her then, a gentle press of lips that quickly deepened into something more. Dahlia had been kissed before, brief fumbling attempts by boys in her youth, but this was different. This was a promise, a claiming, a coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "How soon can we make this official?" "As soon as you want." "Tomorrow," she laughed. "Let us at least wait a week. Give people time to adjust to the idea." They were married 10 days later by the circuit preacher who came through Linden once a month. It was a simple ceremony in the church, attended by a handful of townspeople who had known Dahlia's father. Mrs. Patterson from the hotel cried into her handkerchief, and even the stern-faced Reverend smiled. Dahlia wore her mother's wedding dress, carefully preserved in the wooden box that had been buried and reclaimed. The lace was yellowed with age, but it fit perfectly, and wearing it made her feel connected to her parents, as if they were there witnessing this moment. Marcus wore a new black suit he had bought specially for the occasion. He looked uncomfortable in the formal clothes, but his eyes were warm when he looked at her, full of love and promises. I, Marcus Zimmerman, take you, Dahlia Langston, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to honor you, protect you, and build a life with you. I promise to be your partner in all things for the rest of my days. I, Dahlia Langston, take you, Marcus Zimmerman, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to stand beside you, to work with you, and to love you with all my heart. I promise to be your partner in all things for the rest of my days. They exchanged simple gold bands, and when the Reverend pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed her with such tenderness that Dahlia felt tears slip down her cheeks. They spent their wedding night in the house they had built together. Marcus had moved his things from the hotel earlier in the week, and Dahlia had brought over her belongings from the boarding house. It was strange and wonderful to be living together, to share meals at the table Marcus had built, to sleep in the bed he had constructed with careful attention to every joint and corner. Their wedding night was tender and tentative. They were both inexperienced, fumbling a bit in the lamplight, but they learned each other with patience and growing confidence. Afterward, lying wrapped in each other's arms, Dahlia felt complete in a way she had never imagined possible. "No regrets?" Marcus asked, his voice rough with emotion. "None. You? Not a single one." They settled into married life with the same easy partnership they had found while building the house. Marcus began constructing shelves and counters for the trading post, while Dahlia made lists of supplies they would need. She used some of the money they had retrieved to travel to Topeka and purchase initial inventory. The trip took 3 days by train, and it was the first time Dahlia had left Linden since she was a child. Marcus had wanted to come with her, but they agreed one of them should stay to finish work on the trading post. She missed him terribly during those days away, but the trip was successful. She returned with crates of goods: flour, sugar, coffee, tobacco, ammunition, canned goods, basic tools, and bolts of fabric. "You bought half of Topeka," Marcus said when he saw the wagon piled high with crates. "I bought what people will need," Dahlia said, grinning. "Trust me." They spent a week organizing the inventory, pricing everything fairly but with enough markup to ensure profit. Marcus built a large sign that read "Zimmerman Trading Post" in bold letters, and they mounted it above the porch he had extended across the front of the building. "Should it not say Langston and Zimmerman?" Dahlia asked. "Or Zimmerman and Langston? You are a Zimmerman now," Marcus said, "but if you want both names, we can repaint it." "No," Dahlia said, testing the name in her mind. "Zimmerman Trading Post sounds right." They opened for business on a warm day in July. Their first customer was a rancher from 20 miles west who had heard about the new trading post and rode over to investigate. He bought ammunition, tobacco, and a new axe handle and declared the prices fair. Word spread. More ranchers came, and families traveling west on their way to Colorado or Wyoming. Dahlia's instincts about inventory proved correct. People needed what she had stocked, and they appreciated not having to make the longer trip to Linden for basic supplies. The trading post became a gathering place. Marcus built benches on the porch, and men would stop to rest, share news, and exchange gossip. Dahlia learned the names of their regular customers, remembered their preferences, and began to build the kind of relationships her father had cultivated at his mercantile. One afternoon, a familiar face appeared. Garrett O'Malley rode up with one of his brothers, both men looking sour. They tied their horses and came inside, their eyes roaming over the well-organized shelves. "Well, well," Garrett said. "Looks like you landed on your feet after all, Miss Langston." "It is Mrs. Zimmerman now," Dahlia said coolly. "What can I help you find? We are just looking around. Did not realize you had the capital to start a business. Makes a man wonder if you were honest about having no money when we settled your father's debts." Marcus appeared from the back room carrying a crate. He set it down carefully and walked to stand beside Dahlia. "Is there a problem here?" Garrett sized Marcus up, noting the height, the breadth of shoulder, the calm confidence. "No problem. Just surprised to see your wife doing so well." "My wife is a smart businesswoman. Is there anything you need to purchase, or are you just here to talk?" The tension in the room was thick. Garrett's brother shifted uncomfortably, his hand drifting toward his gun belt. Marcus did not move, but there was something in his stillness that suggested he was ready for whatever came. "We will be going," Garrett finally said, "but we will be watching this place. Any hint that you cheated us and we will be back." "We did not cheat anyone," Dahlia said firmly. "We built this with honest work and fair money. Now please leave." After they left, Dahlia let out a shaky breath. Marcus pulled her close. "They are just trying to intimidate you. I know, but I also know men like that do not let things go easily. Then we will be careful. But we are not giving up what we have built." The O'Malleys did not return, but their presence hung over the trading post like a shadow. Dahlia and Marcus were cautious, making sure to keep detailed records of every transaction, every dollar earned. They banked their profits in Topeka rather than Linden, not trusting the local bank where the O'Malleys had influence. As summer turned to fall, the trading post thrived. They expanded inventory based on customer requests, and Marcus built additional storage sheds. Dahlia discovered she had a talent for negotiation, managing to secure better prices from suppliers by buying in larger quantities and paying promptly. In September, Dahlia realized she had missed her monthly courses. She waited another month to be sure, then told Marcus one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the prairie gold and crimson. "I am pregnant," she said simply. Marcus turned to her, his face transforming with joy. "Truly, truly." He lifted her off her feet, spinning her around, laughing with pure happiness. "We are going to have a baby, a family." "Are you happy about it?" Dahlia asked, though his reaction had already answered the question. Happy does not begin to cover it. He set her down gently, his hands framing her face. "You have given me everything, Dahlia. A home, a purpose, and now a child. I love you more than I have words to say. I love you too, so much it scares me sometimes. Nothing to be scared of, we are in this together." The pregnancy progressed smoothly through fall and into winter. Dahlia continued working at the trading post, though Marcus became increasingly protective, insisting she not lift heavy items or work too long on her feet. They hired a young man from town, a quiet 18-year-old named Peter, to help with manual labor and customer service during busy times. Winter in Kansas was harsh that year, with bitter winds and heavy snow. But the house Marcus had built was snug and warm, the stone fireplace keeping the cold at bay. They spent long evenings together, Marcus carving wood to make furniture for the baby, Dahlia sewing tiny clothes from soft fabric she had set aside from the store. "What if I am not a good mother?" Dahlia asked one night, voicing the fear that had been growing as her belly swelled. "I barely remember my own mother. What if I do not know what to do?" "You will be wonderful," Marcus said with absolute certainty. "You are kind and smart and strong. Our child will be lucky to have you. And you will be a wonderful father, patient and steady and good. We will figure it out together, he said, pulling her close. Like everything else. The baby came in early March of 1883, arriving during a late-season snowstorm that blanketed the prairie in white. The midwife from Linden had been staying with them for a week, anticipating the birth, and it was fortunate she was there because the labor was long and difficult. Marcus paced the main room, forbidden from the bedroom where Dahlia labored. He heard her cries of pain and felt helpless, useless. Peter had come to help run the trading post, and he sat quietly in the corner, equally uncomfortable with the drama unfolding. After 14 hours, a baby's cry pierced the air. Marcus rushed to the bedroom door as the midwife opened it, smiling. "You have a son," she said. "And your wife is tired but well." Marcus entered the room to find Dahlia propped up on pillows, exhausted and pale, but with tears of joy streaming down her face. In her arms was a tiny, red-faced bundle, their son. "Come meet him," Dahlia whispered. Marcus approached as if walking on sacred ground. He looked down at the baby and felt his heart crack open with a love so fierce it took his breath away. "He is perfect. He has your eyes," Dahlia said. "Or he will, I think. And look, he has so much dark hair." Marcus sat carefully on the edge of the bed and touched one tiny hand. The baby's fingers closed around his thumb with surprising strength. "Hello, little one. I am your father. What should we name him?" Dahlia asked. They had discussed names throughout the pregnancy but had not made a final decision. Now, looking at their son, Marcus said, "What about Thomas? After your father?" Dahlia's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Yes, Thomas Marcus Zimmerman. A strong name for a strong boy." Thomas proved to be a demanding baby, waking frequently to nurse and crying with impressive lung power when displeased. But Dahlia and Marcus adapted, taking turns walking him at night, learning to interpret his different cries. The trading post hours became more flexible, with a sign on the door that read, "Open when we are here. Knock if you need something urgent." Their customers were understanding, many of them parents themselves. They brought gifts for the baby, knitted blankets and carved toys. The community that had formed around the trading post became an extended family, celebrating Thomas's arrival with genuine warmth. As spring arrived, and Thomas grew into a chubby, smiling baby, life settled into a new rhythm. Dahlia managed the trading post with Thomas in a basket beside the counter, and Marcus continued to expand their operation, building a small barn for the horses customers rode in on, and adding a covered area where people could rest out of the sun. One day in May, a stagecoach stopped at the trading post. This was unusual as the stage route ran through Linden, not this far out. But the driver explained they had taken a detour due to a washed-out bridge and needed supplies. Among the passengers was a well-dressed man from Topeka, a businessman named Albert Crawford. He looked around the trading post with interest, noting the inventory, the organization, the steady stream of customers. "This is quite an operation," he said to Dahlia as she tallied his purchases. "How long have you been in business?" "Nearly a year," Dahlia said. "Impressive. I am always looking for investment opportunities. Would you and your husband be interested in discussing expansion?" Dahlia glanced at Marcus, who had been listening. He came over and extended his hand. "Marcus Zimmerman. This is my wife, Dahlia. What kind of expansion are you proposing?" Albert Crawford explained that he owned several general stores in eastern Kansas and was looking to establish supply points along western routes. "Your location is ideal. With some capital investment, you could double your inventory, maybe add a small hotel for travelers. I would provide the capital in exchange for a percentage of ownership. "We are not interested in selling," Marcus said immediately. "Not selling, partnering. You would maintain majority ownership and full operational control. I would simply provide funds and business connections." Dahlia and Marcus exchanged a long look, communicating without words. Finally, Dahlia said, "We will think about it. Leave your information and we will contact you if we are interested." After the stage left, they discussed the offer at length. The idea of expanding was tempting, but they were wary of outside investment after Dahlia's experience with her father's debts. "We could do it ourselves," Marcus said. "Grow slowly, use our profits to expand. It would take longer, but we would owe nothing to anyone." "I agree," Dahlia said. "I do not want to risk what we have built. Slow and steady is better." They sent a polite letter to Albert Crawford declining his offer. Instead, they continued their careful growth, adding inventory gradually, improving the property bit by bit. By summer, they had built a small addition to the trading post, a separate room where customers could sit and have coffee and simple meals. This became unexpectedly popular, with travelers willing to pay for hot food and a place to rest. Dahlia proved to have a talent for cooking simple but satisfying meals, and Marcus built tables and benches. Soon, the trading post was as much a restaurant as a store, and their profits increased accordingly. "We are going to need more help," Dahlia said one evening as she tallied the day's receipts. "I cannot keep up with cooking, minding Thomas, and managing the store." They hired a young woman named Sarah, the daughter of one of their regular customers. She was shy but hardworking, and she proved to be excellent with Thomas, who adored her immediately. With Sarah's help, Dahlia could focus on the business side of things while still being close to her son. Life was good. The trading post was prospering, Thomas was thriving, and Dahlia and Marcus were deeply happy. On their first wedding anniversary, Marcus gave Dahlia a locket, a beautiful silver piece engraved with both their initials. "To replace the one you sold," he said softly. Dahlia had sold her mother's locket during those desperate days after her father's death, needing money for food. She had grieved its loss but accepted it as necessary. Now, holding this new locket, tears streamed down her face. "It is beautiful, but Marcus, this must have cost so much." "You are worth it. You are worth everything." He opened the locket to show her what was inside, a tiny curl of Thomas's dark hair on one side and a miniature photograph of the two of them on the other. "Now you carry our family with you always." She kissed him with all the love in her heart. This man who had helped her dig up her buried belongings, and in doing so had given her back her life. As Thomas grew from baby to toddler, he became the joy of the trading post. Customers smiled at his antics, his babbling attempts at speech, his determined efforts to walk on sturdy, chubby legs. He took his first steps in the trading post, toddling from Dahlia to Marcus while a rancher named Bill cheered him on. "That is a fine boy you have there," Bill said, grinning. "Going to be tall like his father." "And smart like his mother," Marcus added, scooping Thomas up and tossing him in the air, making the boy shriek with delight. The second winter was easier than the first, the house and trading post both weathering the cold with no problems. They had stockpiled supplies and could keep the store well provisioned even when snow made travel difficult. It was during this winter that Garrett O'Malley reappeared. He came alone this time, on a cold February afternoon when few customers were around. Dahlia was in the back with Thomas and Marcus was stocking shelves. "Zimmerman," Garrett said, his voice low, "I need to talk to you." Marcus turned, wary. "What do you want?" "I am in trouble, serious trouble. The men I borrowed from to buy the Langston place, they are demanding payment and I do not have it. They are going to take everything, including the mercantile." "That is not my problem." I know, but I am desperate. I need money, and I heard your place is doing well." Garrett's voice took on a pleading tone that sounded wrong coming from him. "I am asking for a loan. I will pay you back with interest." "No, please, I am begging you." Marcus stepped closer, his voice hard. "You took everything from Dahlia when her father died. You did not care that she was left with nothing. Now you want me to help you. The answer is no." Garrett's face twisted with anger. "You are going to regret this. Get out of my store." Garrett left, slamming the door. Dahlia came out from the back, having heard the exchange. "He is going to cause trouble. Let him try. We have done everything legally, everything right. He cannot touch us." But Garrett O'Malley was more dangerous than they anticipated. 2 weeks later, a fire broke out at the trading post in the middle of the night. Marcus smelled smoke and woke instantly, shaking Dahlia awake. "Fire! Get Thomas!" They evacuated quickly, Dahlia clutching Thomas while Marcus grabbed the cash box and important papers. The trading post was fully ablaze, flames shooting into the dark sky. Marcus ran to the barn and freed the horses, then joined Dahlia at a safe distance, watching helplessly as their business burned. Neighbors saw the flames and came to help, forming a bucket brigade from the well, but it was too late to save the building. By dawn, the trading post was a smoking ruin. "How did this start?" Dahlia asked, numb with shock. Marcus walked through the ashes once they cooled, examining the remains. He found it near the back corner, evidence that made his jaw tighten with rage. Kerosene. Someone set this fire deliberately. The sheriff came from Linden, a tired-looking man named Wilson. He examined the evidence and questioned Marcus and Dahlia, then rode to town. He returned 2 days later with news. Garrett O'Malley was seen leaving a saloon bragging about how you turned him down for a loan, how you were going to regret it. I arrested him. He is denying everything, but between the threats and the witnesses, I have enough to hold him for trial." "Will he be convicted?" Dahlia asked. "If the judge is fair, yes. Arson is a serious crime." The trial took place 3 weeks later in Linden. Garrett O'Malley denied setting the fire, but the evidence was damning. Multiple people testified to his threats against Marcus. A kerosene can matching one missing from O'Malley's store was found near the trading post ruins. The judge, a stern man from Topeka, found Garrett guilty and sentenced him to 10 years in prison. "Justice," the judge said, "requires that those who destroy the property of others face severe consequences. Mr. O'Malley, your actions were cowardly and destructive. This sentence reflects the seriousness of your crime." As Garrett was led away in chains, he shot Marcus and Dahlia a look of pure hatred. But Dahlia felt no triumph, only exhaustion. The trading post was gone. Months of work, their entire inventory, all reduced to ashes. That evening, sitting in their house with Thomas asleep between them, Dahlia said, "What do we do now?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "We rebuild. With what money? We lost everything in the fire." "Not everything. We have the land and the house. We have each other and Thomas. And we have insurance money coming." Dahlia had forgotten. Marcus had insisted on insuring the trading post, paying the premiums faithfully. She had thought it an unnecessary expense, but now it would save them. How long will it take to get the insurance payment? A few months, maybe. In the meantime, we can start clearing the ruins and planning the new building. You want to rebuild on the same spot? Absolutely. We are not letting Garrett O'Malley drive us away from what we built. If anything, we rebuild bigger and better. His determination rekindled something in Dahlia's spirit. He was right. They had survived worse. They would survive this too. The insurance payment came through in May, a substantial sum that reflected the value of the trading post and inventory. With this money and what they had saved, Marcus and Dahlia designed a new building, larger than the first, with better ventilation to prevent fire, and stone walls on the lower level for added protection. They hired help this time, experienced carpenters and masons. The new trading post rose from the ashes of the old, better constructed and more thoughtfully designed. They added a proper kitchen for the meal service, a larger storage area and living quarters above the store. "We can rent out our house," Dahlia suggested, "or use it for employees. Living above the store will be more convenient." Construction took all summer, but by September of 1884, the new Zimmerman trading post opened. It was a grand structure by frontier standards, 2 stories of stone and timber, with wide windows and a wraparound porch. Inside, the shelves were stocked with more inventory than ever before, and the kitchen gleamed with a new stove and ample counter space. Their first day of business was busier than any day at the old location. Customers came from miles around, drawn by curiosity and loyalty. They marveled at the new building, congratulated Marcus and Dahlia on their resilience, and spent money freely. "You have built something remarkable," one old rancher said. "Most folks would have given up after a fire like that." "Giving up was never an option," Dahlia said firmly. As the months passed, the new trading post proved even more successful than the first. The meal service expanded, with Sarah and another hired woman, Martha, managing the cooking. Dahlia focused on inventory and customer service, while Marcus handled maintenance, building projects and deliveries. Thomas, now a busy 2-year-old, had the run of the place. He was a favorite among customers, who slipped him penny candy and ruffled his dark hair. He was learning to talk, his vocabulary expanding daily, and his favorite word was "Papa," which made Marcus grin every time. In the spring of 1885, Dahlia discovered she was pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy was easier, perhaps because she knew what to expect. She continued working at the trading post until the last weeks, when she finally allowed Marcus to convince her to rest more. Their second son, Daniel, was born in July. He was smaller than Thomas had been, with lighter coloring and a calm temperament that contrasted with his energetic older brother. "2 boys," Marcus said, holding Daniel while Thomas climbed on his knee demanding attention. "We are outnumbered." "We could always have more," Dahlia said, laughing at the expression on his face. "Let us master 2 before we add more to the chaos." Life with 2 young children was exhausting but fulfilling. Dahlia marveled at how different her life was from what she had imagined 3 years earlier, when she buried her belongings under the cottonwood tree. Then, she had been desperate and alone. Now, she had a husband she loved deeply, 2 beautiful sons, and a thriving business. "Do you ever think about your father?" Marcus asked one evening as they sat on the porch, watching Thomas chase fireflies while Daniel slept in Dahlia's arms. "Every day. I wish he could have met you, seen what we built. He would have been proud, I think. I am sure he would have been." "You honored his dreams and made them real." "We made them real," Dahlia corrected. "I could not have done any of this without you." Marcus reached over and took her hand. "Partners, always." As the years passed, the Zimmerman trading post became an institution in the region. People came not just for supplies but for the sense of community, the good food, and the warm welcome. Dahlia and Marcus treated every customer with respect, whether they were wealthy ranchers or struggling homesteaders. They weathered droughts and harsh winters, economic downturns and prairie fires. Through it all, their partnership remained strong, built on mutual respect, hard work, and deep love. Thomas grew into a tall, serious boy who loved helping his father with building projects. Daniel was quieter, more thoughtful, with a gift for numbers that made him invaluable, helping Dahlia with the books. In 1888, they welcomed a daughter, Emma, who promptly wrapped both her parents and her brothers around her tiny finger. By 1890, 8 years after that desperate morning when Dahlia had buried her belongings, the Zimmerman family was firmly established. The trading post had expanded again, now including a small hotel with 6 rooms and a stable that could accommodate 20 horses. They employed a staff of 8 and served meals to 50 people on busy days. Marcus and Dahlia stood on the porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the prairie with gold and crimson. Thomas was teaching Daniel to rope fence posts, and Emma was singing to herself as she played with a wooden doll Marcus had carved. "You remember the day we met?" Dahlia asked, leaning against Marcus's shoulder. "Every detail. You were carrying linens up the stairs in the hotel, and you looked exhausted and determined all at once. And you looked like a man with secrets. I suppose I was. I was looking for a home, a reason to stop running. I just did not know it until I met you. I was so scared to trust you. When I took you to the cottonwood tree and asked you to help me dig up my belongings, I was risking everything. And I was honored that you trusted me. That was the moment I knew I wanted to spend my life with you." Dahlia turned to face him, this man who had transformed her life. His face was weathered now from years of outdoor work, lines around his eyes from squinting into the sun, but he was still the most handsome man she had ever seen. "I love you, Marcus Zimmerman, more with every year that passes. I love you, Dahlia. You are my heart, my home, my everything." They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, their children's laughter floating on the evening breeze, and Dahlia felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had buried her belongings to keep them safe, never imagining that in digging them up she would find so much more. She had found love, partnership, family, and a future beyond anything she could have dreamed. The prairie stretched endlessly around them, wild and beautiful, and standing there with Marcus's arms around her, Dahlia knew she was exactly where she belonged. They had built something lasting from desperation and hope, and it would endure for generations to come. Years continued to unfold like the pages of a well-loved book. The children grew, each developing their own personalities and dreams. Thomas, at 15, was already taller than Marcus, with his father's broad shoulders and his mother's keen business mind. He talked about expanding the trading post even further, perhaps opening another location in a different town. Daniel, at 13, preferred books to building. He spent hours poring over catalogs and newspapers, teaching himself about the larger world beyond Kansas. Dahlia encouraged this, knowing that intelligence came in many forms. Emma, at 10, was fearless and opinionated. She helped in the trading post with confidence, haggling with customers like a seasoned merchant, much to everyone's amusement. She declared regularly that she would run the business someday, and neither Marcus nor Dahlia doubted she could. In 1895, Dahlia gave birth to their 4th and final child, a son they named Matthew. He was an unexpected blessing, arriving when Dahlia was 36 and had assumed her childbearing years were over. Matthew was a sunny child, always smiling, and his arrival brought fresh joy to the family. The trading post continued to thrive, adapting to changing times. When the railroad extended a spur line that passed within 2 miles of their property, Marcus built a wagon road connecting them to the station. This brought even more business, as travelers could easily reach the trading post from the train. They survived the financial panic of 1893, when many businesses failed, because of their careful management and diversified income streams. The store, the hotel, the restaurant, and now a small freight service all contributed to their stability. One autumn afternoon in 1897, an elegant buggy arrived at the trading post. An elderly woman emerged, dressed in expensive black silk. Dahlia was serving customers and glanced up, then froze. "Mother Langston," she whispered. It was her father's mother, a woman Dahlia had not seen since she was a child. After Dahlia's mother died, there had been a falling out between Thomas Langston and his own mother, and they had never reconciled. "Dahlia," the woman said, her voice shaky. "I heard about Thomas, about his death. I am sorry it took me so long to come." "That was 15 years ago," Dahlia said, emotions swirling confusion, old hurt, and curiosity. "I know. I was stubborn and foolish. I let pride keep me from my son, and by the time I thought to make amends, it was too late." Tears filled the old woman's eyes. "I have no right to ask, but I wanted to see you to meet your family. I am dying, Dahlia. The doctor says I have perhaps 6 months. I do not want to die without trying to make things right." Dahlia felt Marcus's presence beside her, his hand warm on her back, steadying her. She looked at her grandmother, this woman who had been absent from her life, and felt the old anger dissolve. Life was too short for grudges. "Come in," Dahlia said. "Meet your great-grandchildren." The visit lasted 3 days. Mother Langston stayed in one of the hotel rooms and spent hours talking with Dahlia, filling in stories about her father's childhood, sharing photographs Dahlia had never seen. She marveled at Thomas, Daniel, Emma, and little Matthew, declaring them all fine children who would have made their grandfather proud. "You have built something remarkable here," Mother Langston said on her last evening. "Thomas would be so proud of you." "I am proud of you, even though I have no right to be." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Dahlia said gently. "I am glad you came." Before she left, Mother Langston gave Dahlia a package. Inside was her father's grandfather's pocket watch, an heirloom Thomas had sold during hard times. "I bought it back from the pawnshop years ago," Mother Langston explained. "I was saving it, hoping to give it to Thomas, but I waited too long. I want you to have it now to pass down to your sons." Dahlia held the watch, overwhelmed. "Thank you. This means more than you know." Mother Langston died 4 months later. She left her entire estate to Dahlia, a surprising fortune that included property and investments. The inheritance letter included a note. "For my granddaughter, who showed me grace when I deserved none. Use this to build your dreams even larger." With this unexpected windfall, Marcus and Dahlia made significant improvements to the trading post. They built a proper schoolhouse nearby and hired a teacher, providing education not just for their children but for all the children in the surrounding area. They expanded the hotel to 12 rooms and added a bathhouse, a luxury that travelers appreciated. They also purchased the old mercantile in Linden when it came up for sale after the O'Malley brothers' business collapsed. Thomas, now 20, was given the responsibility of running it, and he proved more than capable. The Langston name returned to the storefront, and Dahlia felt a sense of completion, a circle closing. As the new century approached, the Zimmerman family gathered for a photograph, something that had become more common with improved camera technology. They stood in front of the trading post, Marcus and Dahlia in the center, their 4 children arranged around them. Thomas was tall and confident, Daniel serious and intelligent, Emma spirited and bright, and Matthew, at 7, grinning with boyish enthusiasm. "Hold still," the photographer instructed, and for a moment they all froze, a family captured in time. That evening, as they celebrated Daniel's 21st birthday, Marcus raised his glass in a toast. "To family, to hard work, and to the woman who made all of this possible. Dahlia, you took a desperate situation and turned it into abundance. You trusted me when you had every reason not to, and together we built a legacy." I am grateful every day for you." "Here, here," the children chorused, raising their own glasses. Dahlia felt tears prick her eyes. "I could not have done any of this without all of you. Marcus, you gave me back my future when I thought I had none. Children, you are the best parts of both of us. I am so proud of each of you." The years that followed were peaceful and prosperous. Thomas expanded the Linden mercantile and eventually married a sweet-natured girl named Rebecca. They gave Marcus and Dahlia their first grandchild in 1902, a boy named Thomas Jr. Daniel went to college in Kansas City, studying accounting, then returned to manage the financial side of the family businesses. He married a teacher named Lillian, and they had twin girls who were the delight of the entire family. Emma, true to her word, took over much of the trading post operations. She had a gift for customer relations and modernization, bringing in new products and services that kept the business competitive. She married a railroad engineer named Christopher, and they lived in one of the houses Marcus had built on the property. Matthew, the youngest, showed an interest in ranching. Marcus helped him purchase land and cattle, establishing a ranch that supplied beef to the Trading Post restaurant. He was still young and unmarried, but his future looked bright. Marcus and Dahlia, now in their 50s, gradually stepped back from daily operations, though they remained involved and consulted. They spent more time together, taking trips to places they had always wanted to see, revisiting the dreams they had shared in those early days. One spring morning in 1908, they walked out to the old cottonwood tree where it had all begun. The tree was larger now, its branches spreading wide, and the land around it was lush with new grass and wildflowers. "You ever regret it?" Marcus asked, taking her hand. "The path we chose, the struggles we went through." Dahlia looked at him, this man who had been her partner for 26 years, who had helped her dig up her buried belongings, and in doing so had unearthed a future neither of them could have imagined. "Not for a single moment," she said. "Every struggle led us here to this life, to our children and grandchildren, to everything we built together. If I could go back, knowing everything I know now, I would still choose this path. I would still choose you." Marcus pulled her close, and they stood beneath the cottonwood tree, two people who had found each other at the right moment, who had taken desperate circumstances and transformed them into a love story that would echo through generations. "I buried my belongings here to keep them safe," Dahlia said softly. "But what I really found was you, and you were the greatest treasure of all." Marcus kissed her, tender and sweet, and Dahlia felt the same flutter in her heart that she had felt the first time all those years ago. Some things never changed. Some loves only grew deeper with time. They walked back to the trading post hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that together they could weather any storm, overcome any obstacle, and build anything they dreamed. Their legacy was not just in the buildings and businesses they had created, but in the love they shared, the family they had raised, and the example they had set of what partnership and determination could achieve. As the sun set over the Kansas prairie, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, the Zimmerman trading post stood solid and welcoming, a testament to the power of hope, the value of trust, and the enduring strength of love. Inside, their children and grandchildren gathered for dinner, laughter echoing through rooms that Marcus had built and Dahlia had made into a home. This was their happily ever after, earned through hard work, sustained by love, and cherished with every breath. And as Marcus and Dahlia sat at the head of the table, surrounded by the family they had created, they knew that this, all of this, was worth more than any treasure that could be buried or dug up. This was the true wealth of a life well lived together,